Hey, what's going on, guys? Looks like we're starting to fill up right now. Hey, what's going on, Tabitha? Yeah, I see that there's a few people jumping in still, so I'll hold up a second while I'm starting today's lesson. I'll just talk about the new file that I just uploaded. This is that Unit 10 Part 2, in which you guys. Oh, why did it put it down there? For whatever reason, that one copied down it weirdly, but um, this is the little lab assignment that is going to be due, I believe I said next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I said next Tuesday to give you guys time to make sure you could catch up on all your other work. I'm trying my best not to overload you guys. This little packet has 10 questions in it. There's a couple that have like part A and B, like number 3. But what I want you guys to do is, as we're going through the review packet in these lessons, you'll notice that a lot of the questions are going to be similar. So my recommendation would be doing like one or two of these questions a day as we're doing them in the review packet. Um, I do not plan, as far as the homework sessions go that I do at 1 o'clock, if you show up, I don't plan on doing any of the questions in this packet. If you have a question, like for example, number 1, I'll make up a different one that we can do some more practice with, but I'm not going to do these ones specifically because this packet is considered like your test. It's not really a test though, because I mean, it's open note and everything. Um, Tabitha, we'll do puppy time after I'm done with the second page because I know some people still want to see the puppy. All right. So it looks like there's still some more people jumping in right now. So I'll hold up a second. We are going to be doing page 2 of this unit number 10 review packet. So I'll zoom in on everything we did on the first page. As far as the regents goes, we're being told, as of right now, this is what Mr. B told me, but this can still change. You guys will still have a final, but they're going to consider it a local final. So it will be a local final, as in the teachers will create the final. Most likely, all your teachers are going to create an open note test that you guys can complete and turn in, and then we'll grade it and blah, 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 blah. As of right now, I don't know if you guys will have to take a Regents test in the future. That one, I don't have the answer to that yet. I tried watching the meeting earlier, but it was just so blah that I'm just going to read notes on it later today. It should count as credit. That's my understanding. It should count as credit. Um, Again, I don't know a lot of info. I wish I knew more at this time. I just don't. So, but I will make sure to update you as soon as I can. I had the meeting with Mr. B and a bunch of the high school teachers at 11 to like 12:30, and that's when the conference was going on. So I was trying to watch it and have my meeting with Mr. B, and I wasn't gonna be able to do it all. Yes, that lab is what's going to be due next Tuesday, Katie. So if you guys have trouble downloading, I know some people out there only have paper copies. If you need a paper copy of Unit 10 Lab 2, you need to contact me because I did not give that to you guys a few weeks ago. Otherwise, the only way you would be able to get it is through the iPad. So if you're having trouble with iTunes, make sure to let me know so I can email it to you. If, like I said, you can't use your iPad at all because of internet issues or whatnot, and you need a paper copy, let me know. I will send it to Miss Ward and Mr. B, and then they'll figure out a way to get it to you guys so you'll have it. Okay? Yeah, a week from today. Week from today. Not today, but next Tuesday. It is already in Shobi, I think. Did I not do it in Shobi? No, I didn't do it in Shobi. Oh, I can't go into Shobi. What am I talking about? I'll do that after the lesson if I remember. Um, Yeah, I'll put it in Shobi so then you guys can turn it in anytime you want up until next Tuesday. Obviously, if you're turning in a little late, I'm not going to count it against you because it's going to be for fourth quarter. This is not going to be for third quarter. Okay? So, that being said, I am going to scroll down to page number 2. You guys will see that we have, we got 7 questions on here. I probably won't do all 7. Maybe I will. I don't know. We'll go through them and we'll see what the time's going to be at after we go through, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So I'm going to zoom in on number 5. This is working with inverse. And you guys may recall, thank you, Miranda. You guys may recall doing that little f to the -1. And that's when we switch x and y around. So switch x and y. When you guys go to do a problem like this, you'll notice that there are 2 x's in it. So when you guys go to solve this, the first thing we have to do is make sure we change this f of x to a y. So I'm going to rewrite it as y equals x over x plus 1. And if we want to find the inverse, we just have to make sure we switch the x's and y's. So this is really going to become an x on the left side, and these are going to become y's. Well, now, if we want to solve this for y, we have a fraction is equal to x. So the easiest way, in my opinion, is taking that x and putting it over 1. And then we did some of this the other day. We're cross multiplying. Of course, my iPad keeps freezing. Come on, there it goes. All right, so if I cross multiply, this is going to be, well, I'm just going to do the green side first because y times 1 is really just going to be y, and that's going to be equal to x times y plus 1, which we really could just distribute. And if we distribute that, we're going to get a whole new line, which is going to be y is equal to xy plus x. Stick with me, Sierra. You'll get it. After we get there, since we're trying to get y all by itself, you have to get all the y's on the same side of the equation. So my recommendation would be to move this xy over to the left so we can get all the y's on the left side. And we cannot subtract y minus xy because they're not like terms, so I'm just going to rewrite them. And it's all equal to x. So this is a while ago. This is like almost the beginning of the unit. It would have been within the first 5 lessons. When you guys get to here, there is one step that I told you guys you have to remember. In order to get y all alone, we have to use the factoring method GCF. So in this step right here, what color have I not used yet? I'll go to this weird bluish. So once we get there, what we're going to do is we're going to do GCF. So I can factor out a y because they both have y's in common. And if I take a y out of both of those, I'm just going to be left with 1 minus x. And that's all equal to x. Well, now it's easy because if I want to get y all alone, I have to subtract that 1 minus. If I want to get the y all alone, I have to divide the 1 minus x over to the other side. So I'm just going to put down division of 1 minus x, division of 1 minus x. 1 minus x's cancel out, and we're left with y equals x over 1 minus x. There is a second possible answer here. So I'm just going to kind of leave this answer here. If somebody tried going ahead of me and solving it a different way and you got a different answer, and if you're not sure if it's right, what I will ask you to do is just take a screenshot and send it to me. I don't want to put both answers up right now because I don't want to confuse anybody. But if you think that you did everything right and you got a different answer from me, send it, because you may still be right. Okay. So this is going to be one of those things. We may not have to do all the questions. This is probably, in my opinion, one of the most difficult questions to do, because a lot of you guys are going to forget that GCF step. But if you're feeling pretty good about it, I won't bother doing the next question. That's going to be up to you guys. If I have somebody in here that says that they want me to do B with you, I will do B with you. But if you guys are feeling pretty good, I could go to the next. Tabitha says do it. I mean, I could do it. It's going to be the same exact step, so I have no problem doing it. So I'm going to rewrite it so it's y equals x minus 4 over 3x. I have to switch them around, so it's going to become x equals y minus 4 over 3y. I now have to cross multiply, so I'm going to put the x over 1. I'll do x times 3y, and I'm going to do 1 times y minus 4. Again, it doesn't matter which order you put these in. So I'm going to say the left side's going to be 3xy, and I'm going to say it's equal to, well, if we do y minus 4 times 1, it's still going to be y minus 4. Our goal is to get all the y's on the same side, so I'm going to subtract that y over to the opposite side. And what I'm going to do is, because I ran out of room down here, I'm going to move this up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract that y over to the left. 3xy minus y is not like terms. So I have 3xy minus y is equal to negative 4. And now, again, I have those y's on the same side. Now I can do GCF. So I'm just going to pull a y to the outside. If I pull that y to the outside, I'm going to be left with 3x minus 1 is equal to negative 4. And now the last step, I'm just going to divide both sides by that 3x minus 1. So the 3x minus 1s will cancel out, and I'm left with y equals negative 4 over 3x minus 1. Again, if you guys tried doing this without me and you got an answer that looks a little bit different, you could still be right, because there are 2 answers for these problems. Again, I don't want to put it up on the stream and confuse anybody, so just, if you think you're right, take a picture of it, send it to me, and then I'll check it after the lesson's over. Okay. If there's no questions with that, I'll move on to the next part, which the next part was the very last lesson that we did before this whole quarantine started. So this is the very last lesson. We did it, that would have been the Friday before, since it started on that one Monday. So I'm going to zoom in on number 6. It says the rational expression x squared plus 4x minus 21 all over x squared minus 49 can be simplified to what? So when we go to solve this, what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you factor top and bottom first. So as long as you factor top and bottom first, you will see that some stuff can be simplified out, because you'll be able to cancel out top and bottom. If we go to do the top portion, we have x squared plus 4x minus 21. We can factor that trinomial out into 2 bubbles. We have x and x. And it looks like the only thing that we're going to be able to do is 7 and 3, because 7 times 3 is 21. And if you subtract those, they will be 4, as long as you say that the 7 is positive and the 3 is negative. All over, now we got to factor the bottom. Well, the bottom is considered dots, because x squared minus 49 are both perfect squares. So again, I could switch them both up into bubbles, but the bubbles should look very, very similar. You're going to have 2 x's and you're going to have 2 7s. You just have to remember, because it is difference of 2 squares, One of them has to be positive. One of them has to be negative. And when we simplified fractions, if you guys have the same thing on the top and the same thing on the bottom, you can cancel them out. So now we are left with x minus 3 on the top and x minus 7 on the bottom. If you want to keep the parentheses, you can. You don't have to. As you can see, I didn't put the parentheses in there. That's up to you. Okay. Because everything we're going to do now is pretty much the same thing as 6. We're just adding on an extra step because we have to do like cancellation and stuff like that. So we're still going to be doing some factoring. Depending on if it's adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, there are some rules that go into play. I'm going to start off with the 2 dividing problems because multiplying and dividing are a little bit easier than adding and subtracting. So I'm going to do part A, and then I'm going to go down to part D, and then I'll go over to B and then C, and then we'll call it quits for today. So if I go over to part A, we have to check to see if everything is simplified top and bottom. Actually, I lied. I forgot. There's a big thing here. Division sign. When you guys divide fractions, there was 3 letters that we used to divide these fractions. And those 3 letters were K, C, and F. And hopefully you guys are remembering those letters stood for keep, change, and flip. So your goal is to first do this keep, change, flip. So the first fraction stays exactly the same. You have to change your division sign to multiplication, and then you have to flip your second fraction over. Now you have to look at all 4 of them and make sure that they're completely factored out or simplified. If you look at the 8x squared y to the 5th, you can't multiply those anymore. The 3x to the 4th and the 9y to the 4th cannot be simplified anymore. However, the bottom right, that 16 part, that technically can be simplified because if you guys have that exponent on the outside of parentheses, we have to remember that we have to distribute it to the inside. And in this case, you're only doing it to the x and the y. Well, this y technically has a 1 here. So if we distribute that in, this is going to become x to the 6 and y squared. And actually, we don't even need the parentheses anymore because if you distribute it in, the parentheses are going to disappear. But we still have a 16 out front. So I'm just kind of crossing off this bottom part now because we simplified it down. Now that we get here, when you guys do multiplication, we've been kind of doing this the last couple of days. What you guys have to do is make sure that you do what we call cross canceling. We're just going to check to see if there's anything on the top and bottom that can cancel out. And I told you guys to look at the diagonals. So I'm going to look at this 8x squared y to the 5th, and I'm going to go over to its diagonal and see if anything can cancel out. Well, I'm going to start with this 8, and I'm going to go over to this 16. Well, 8 and 16 does have something that can cancel out. You're going to have 8 and 16, 8 fits into them. So you could divide both by 8. So this is going to become 1, and this is going to become 2. Alina, yes to your question. And then we also can do the variables. So if I look at the top, I have 2 x's here, and I have 6 x's down here. So we know we have 2 x's in common. So I can cross off 2 x's on top and bottom. Well, these ones up top are just gone. On the bottom, if we take 2 x's out, we still have x to the 4th left over. And then we do the same thing for the y's. Well, I have y to the 5th up top and y squared on the bottom. So that again, we can cross off 2 y's. We're left with y to the 3rd on the top, but on the bottom, that y squared's gone. Alina asked if we can do the 9 and 3. So we can also look at the other diagonals. So now I'm going to look at this 3x to the fourth and 9y to the fourth and see if anything can cancel out there. And yes, we have the 3 and the 9 because 3 can fit into both of those. So 3 divided by 3 is really just 1, and 9 divided by 3 would give us 3. But then you guys should notice that the x to the fourth and y to the fourth, there's nothing that can cancel because they're not the same variable. So the very last step now is just write down everything you have left over by multiplying them together. So we have 1 times 3 on the top. So I'm just multiplying straight across. 1 times 3 is just going to be 3. Y to the third times y to the fourth. We have to make sure we're adding exponents, so that would become y to the seventh. Now I have to multiply the bottom. I have 1 times 2, which is just 2. And then I have x to the fourth times x to the fourth, which would be x to the eighth. So I'll pause right there. We'll see if I lost anybody in all this canceling and stuff. And if I did, don't be afraid to speak up. Or shoot me an email, whichever is easier for you. My emails are blowing up. I have like over 70 emails right now. Which is good because that means you guys are turning in everything that you guys are supposed to be turning in. All right. I'm not seeing anybody asking questions, so I'm going to jump down to part D. And based on the time today, I don't know, I might stop at part D, and then we can do the adding and subtracting tomorrow. Because like I said, I'm trying to stretch out this review for the entire week. This is horrible. What is horrible? That question was horrible? Katie, I think if you thought part A was difficult, when we go to part D, I think you're going to find it easier. Because part A, there's a lot of different stuff going on. Part D is going to look a lot simpler because they're all going to be bubbles. So try going down to part D. It's going to be the same type of equation because it's still division. Oh, just online math in general. You complain if we were in class too. I don't want to hear it. All right, so same type of question. Division just means that you have to do keep, change, flip. So I'm going to do the same thing, KCF. I'm going to keep that first fraction. I'm going to change it to multiplication, and I got to flip the other fraction over. Yeah, see? I know how you are, Katie. I know my students. Well, most of you guys. I'm still trying to figure out everybody's names in here. I finally figured out that the one name is Gabe. If you guys were to look at the users, do you think you could figure out which one is Gabe? Because it took me like 2 weeks and it finally clicked. Anyways, if you guys look at part D, now after you guys change it to multiplication, what we need to do is we have to factor everything or simplify everything down if we can. In this case, we can factor them all, except for, I think the 10x squared is the only one that we can't do. So if we go to factor, we have 5x squared plus 30x. In that case, we can factor with GCF because 5x fits into both of them. So I'm just going to pull a 5x to the outside. And we should have an x plus 6 left on the inside. But underneath it, 10x squared can't be factored because it's already by itself. So I can just rewrite it as 10x squared times x squared minus 4x minus 12. We can factor because they're both binomials. So if I factor those, I can get 2 bubbles. I'll have x and x. In order to get 4, it's looking like we can use 6 and 2 because 6 times 2 would give us 12, and if you subtract them, they will give you 4. You just have to make sure the 6 is the one that's being negative and the 2 is positive. Oops, I pressed the arrow button at the bottom. Sorry, guys. Shot me all the way back up to the first page. If we go underneath that, you guys have 36 minus x squared. This is another dots. Remember, if you have dots, they're both perfect squares in subtraction. So we can split those up into two bubbles. So we'll have x, sorry, I did that backwards because in this case the x comes second. So the x would be at the end of the parentheses. And then 36 would be 6 and 6. We just have to remember, because it is dots, one is addition, one is subtraction. So now we just have to see if there's anything that's exactly the same on top and bottom. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to start canceling some stuff off. Now, it is kind of tricky to see here, and I don't want you guys to think that this is not right. X plus 6 and 6 plus x are the same exact thing because of commutative property. We are allowed to switch them around because it's addition. Where you guys have to make sure you pay attention is if you're switching them around with subtraction. We said that there was a rule anytime you had two numbers that were the same and you flipped it around when it's subtracting. So exactly what you just said, Shannon, if it's x minus 6 and 6 minus x, they do cancel out, but because they're backwards, we have to put a -1 above it. You don't have to do it for the addition, you only do it for the subtraction. As far as that goes, there is one other thing you can cancel out. I'm not going to do it in this step. I'm going to multiply everything and then show the canceling out in the next step. If you guys see it, you can cancel it out right now, no problem. But I'm just going to write down what's left over. I have 5x and I have x plus 2. And technically I have to multiply it all by -1, so I'm just going to put a negative on the outside. Now I'm going to do the bottom, and on the bottom I'm just left with 10x squared. Now technically the part that can still be reduced is that 5x and 10x squared. Because if you have 5 and you have 10, you could divide both of those by 5. So I'm going to divide both of them by 5, and I'm going to get a -1 on the top. And on the bottom, if I divide it by 5, it's going to be 2. We also have 1x on the top, and we have, and you know what? I'm actually going to do it up here so you guys can see a little bit better. So we're saying that we can divide this by 5, which becomes 1. We can divide this by 5, and it becomes 2. And we also have an x in common, so we could cross off 1x on the top, and we could cross off 1x on the bottom, so we're left with an x. Now we just have to write down what's left over, and it looks like we're going to have -1 times x plus 2 all over 2x. Again, some of you guys may have reduced that in the step before, which is fine. I just stretched it out so everybody can see what's going on. And from there, you could distribute the -1 in if you want to. It doesn't really change the answer, so I don't care if you do or not. But I'm going to end it there. I'll worry about the adding and subtracting tomorrow. Some of you guys may remember how to do the adding subtracting because that's when we're going into LCDs. But I figured we didn't do any LCDs with any of these other problems, so I'll wait till tomorrow with them. Okay? So does anybody have questions there? Would there have been a -1 on? So just be careful with the addition ones. So if I write x plus 6 and 6 plus x, actually, I want to put it over 6 plus x. So you guys can take any number you want and plug it in for the x. So let's say I plug in the number 2. So I'm just picking a number. If I were to simplify that, that would be 8 over 8, and it's going to reduce down to be a +1. Okay? If you guys were to look at the negative version, though, I have x minus 6 over 6 minus x. Let's say I plug in the number 2. It'll be 2 minus 6 over 6 minus 2, which would be -4 over +4, which reduces down to be -1. So Alina, to answer your question, if it's positive and they're switched around, the answer stays positive. However, if it's negative and there's subtraction in there and they're switched around, the answer becomes negative. Shannon, LCD. LCD. Jeez. Only other thing I got to talk about with you guys is technically tomorrow is the end of the quarter. A lot of you guys have done really well at getting all those homework assignments in. We technically had 6 assignments that you guys had to turn in, I believe. It was homeworks 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you had 5 homeworks over these last 3 weeks. So that was the 5 assignments you guys needed for the whole online instruction. Yeah, and puppy, I'll make sure I'll call my wife right now and tell her to bring him down. Let's see. Hey, can you bring down Archie?
Sure, he's sleeping though.
Wake him up. He'll be fine.
Okay.
All right. This is all your fault, Tabitha. He's sleeping. Now he's going to be up for the rest of the night. So now we just got to wait. Any other questions with what we did today? Everybody's just sticking around for the puppy now. I see how it is. My wife's already posted like 100 pictures of him on that Instagram page. I'm assuming you've all have already seen him.
So sleepy. Say hi, Archie.
So there's Archie. He's just waking up right now.
Yeah, isn't he cute?
Yeah, we just had him running around in the backyard for like an hour trying to get him to sleep.
Oh, he looks so tired.
He does look really tired right now.
It's because he was sleeping.
Yeah. Has he passed out ever since we brought him back in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yep, little Archie.
It's okay, buddy.
He is not really getting along with the guinea pigs all that much yet. Not that he's not getting along. It's just Archie and all the guinea pigs are kind of scared of each other right now. They're interested. They all boop noses. But as soon as they boop noses, they turn and run.
Big yawn, buddy.
We got one of them like sitting next to him. We posted the picture on Instagram.
2-to-1 ratio.
Yep. Yeah, he wants nothing to do with anything right now.
Nope. Oh, he was upset that I picked him up.
Was he?
He's like, "Aw."
What's up?
Say hi, Daddy.
No? You just wanted to stare at me because you're miserable?
It's okay, buddy.
You can go back to bed.
Want to go back to sleep? Yeah.
He's so tired he doesn't even want to give kisses right now.
I know. Another yawn.
All right, well, I'm going to end on that awesome note right there. You guys all got to see the puppy. Yeah, he wants to go to bed so bad right now. I'm telling you, we had him sprinting all around the yard for about an hour, and our neighbor brought their dog out, and we have a fence. So they were staring at each other between the fence going back and forth, and he's just beat. But, all right, well, I am going to sign out. Again, what I recommend is try getting a jump start on some of the Unit 10 Lab 2 questions. You'll be able to do most of the... Actually, I think you can do the whole first page right now, and you'll be able to do a couple questions on the second page. It compares right to the review, so you guys have something to look at. Again, if you guys are coming to me for homework help, I am not going to help you out on Lab 2, but I'll do similar questions with you guys. So if you come to me, say tomorrow at 1 o'clock, you want to come down during that lab time, and you say, hey, Mr. Sadler, I don't know how to do question number 5. I'll make up another question just like that for you, and we can do some more practice with it. But I'm not going to do that exact question. Okay? So if you guys don't have any other questions for me, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I would say try to get outside, but I think the sun went down and it's supposed to rain up here, so I'm going to assume it's the same down there. But it was beautiful out this morning, sunny, and about 65 up here. Hopefully, you guys are trying to enjoy any time that you can outside of school. I know it's tough. I'm going to read the notes about the Regent stuff, and hopefully I can give you guys some more answers on that tomorrow. Okay? So turn in assignments that you're missing. Grades close tomorrow. I know a lot of you guys still have some missing assignments. Get them in. If you're having trouble, email me. All right? Love you all. See you soon.